You are listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast. This is the place where content creators come to learn how to create profitable content that positions themselves as an authority and grows their online businesses. Get ready to take your content to a whole new level with your host, Kristen Poborski.
Are you creating content that isn't building your audience, turning them into leads and paying customers? Because if so, you're probably doing it all wrong. And I'm Kristen Poborski, and I'm here to talk to you today about 5 ways that you are creating your content all wrong and how to fix it. All right, I'm going to give you a quick peek into what I'm going to cover in today's video, and I've got 2 questions that I'm going to answer at the very end. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the topics, because you're probably picking the wrong topics. You're probably not optimizing your content for SEO. Number 3 is you're not using storytelling. I love this one. This is one of my favorite things to do. Then number 4, you might be creating content around things that you don't really know about. Okay. And number 5 is not having the right plan in place. Okay. So the first question I'm going to ask at the very end, and you're going to want to stay and listen into what I have to say about how to create. People want to know how to create a simple content plan before you launch a course. Okay. It's different than a regular content plan when you are creating content that leads up to a launch. So I'm going to share with you that. Then the second question is, how do I come up with those stories that create demand for my course or my service? Okay, but before I dive into today's topic, the 5 ways that you're creating content all wrong and how to fix it, I want to do a quick introduction. I'm Kristen Poborski, and I help healers, coaches, and course creators dial in their content plan and create the courses that help them build their audience and turn them into leads and customers. So back in 2014, I discovered the power of content creation. Back then, I was a struggling virtual assistant working 24/7 for clients that were continually basically throwing up in my inbox with do this, do that, do this, do that. And I was on the road to burnout. And I figured there had to be a better way that I could serve them in a way that would help me grow my business and grow their business. And that's when I discovered the power of content creation, when it was done right in a way that would help them grow their businesses, right? And I figured out how to automate it so that it made it easy for them to create it. They handed it off to my team and then we put it through our system, which is now part of Smart Simple Content Creation and Automation, the rapid content creation system. We would put it in there and get their message out into a bigger audience and bring them back and have them turn into leads and eventually paying customers. And that made all the difference for me, because overnight, once I started doing this, I was no longer looking in my email box every single day. My clients loved me because I got them results, and it has also helped me build my own personal business because I do it every single day in my business, and I teach students how to do it in Smart Simple Content Marketing and Automation program. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic, the 5 ways that you might be creating content all wrong because it's not getting you leads and customers. Okay, so the first thing I always say is you're picking the wrong topics, okay? You're picking the wrong topics. They don't care. You're creating stuff that you think they are interested in, instead of picking topics that are popular, that align with what you do or in your business, okay? So what you want to do is you want to go out and find hot topics, and you want to create your own content around that, okay? When I started doing that back in 2014 for my client Todd Krieger, we took his traffic to his content. It immediately started doubling, and by the month 4, I think it was quadruple, because we just did this one thing. We started talking about topics that were popular and aligned with what his business objectives, what he does for his clients in his program. And it has made a difference, and it continues. We've been doing it since 2014. We're still using the same method today, and it's still working. So if you're not picking the right topics and you're just picking things that you think you want to create, you definitely want to go and start looking at picking topics that your audience is interested in, okay? That is so key. It's pretty much the basis for everything I do. Then the next thing is you're not optimizing your content for keywords, okay? So one of the things that I teach is 10-minute SEO, and inside of 10-minute SEO, it's so simple to SEO your content, but what you've got to do is you need to find the keywords that people are searching for. So whether or not you're doing this on your blog or on YouTube, those are two places that are search engine type places where I always tell my clients and my students to put their content. So if you don't know what those keywords are that people are looking for and they're not in your content, it's very hard for your content to do its work to drive organic traffic to you. So if you're not doing that, you definitely want to learn how to do a little keyword research and start putting it into your content topics in there, and where to do it and how to do it, okay? Then number 3 is not sharing stories. So I don't know if you're paying attention to what I'm saying here, but I'm sharing stories throughout to illustrate points that I want you to remember. And if you're not sharing stories and you're just disseminating information in your content, it isn't going to attract your audience. Your audience is going to tune you out. People resonate with stories. So think about a great movie, and stories could be analogies or whatever. It doesn't have to be a specific story about what you've done, but think about a movie. When you go to the movies, you just kind of get sucked into the story, and you just sit there, and you don't sit there and critically think about it. Well, that's the power of storytelling when you incorporate stories in your content. People don't sit there and analyze, is this true? Is this right? Is it wrong? They just get emotionally into your content. And a lot of times they will resonate with your story, especially if it's like a rags to riches story, right? Everybody loves those. So I can give you a really good example. I was following this man, and I was really looking for a way to sell more of my programs. And one of the things he said was, well, before I discovered the name of his program, I was struggling to sell my content, and I was only selling 1 or 2, and I did these things, and he specifically said what they were. But what I resonated with me was the fact that he was only selling 1 or 2 of his programs, and by doing these things, it changed everything for him, and he started selling way more, having higher conversion rates and things like that. Well, I related to that story, and because I related to that story, I started following him, and I actually ended up buying and learning his method because he told that story. So I really identified. So if you are not sharing your stories or analogies or stories of your clients in your content, creating case studies, and even sharing them inside your content everywhere, in your landing pages, in your emails, all of that, you're really missing out on a great opportunity to create more demand and to create content that will really resonate with your audience and draw them in, okay? So that really is a key thing. If you remember anything from today, is that you've got to include storytelling in your content, okay? Then the next thing is number 4, not creating content about what you know, okay? So really, anything in your business, what you teach in your business, what courses you create, what you offer for services, it needs to be something that you know about, because it makes it that much easier to create content that is compelling, whether it's in your course, in your social media, or blog posts, videos, things like that. Because when you write about stuff that you don't know, it's just harder to communicate that content or your knowledge, because you don't have stories. You stumble around because you're just trying to think about what I'm going to say. So I always create content on things that I know, because I can just stand up here. I've got a little script, but I'm not reading my script. I'm speaking from experience, from my knowledge. I'm confident about what I'm talking about, and it comes across energetically. So if you're not creating content on things that you know, it's going to come across energetically in a way that is not going to resonate with your audience, and you're going to not be able to position yourself as the authority, as the go-to. And you'll find that it becomes enjoyable to create content when you're talking about things that you know and are passionate about, okay? It just comes across that much easier. Then, mistake number 5 is not having a plan in place, okay? I always have a content plan in place, and it definitely aligns with whatever marketing activities I have going on in my business. So right now I am filming a bunch of content and organizing it so that I have a bank of content when I do my next launches for the rest of this year. Actually, I think I'm creating 6 months of content or more all in 1 week, so that I have a bank of content and I'm not rushing around trying to create content at the last minute. So that's why having a plan in place and knowing where you're going to use it and when you're going to use it is crucial. And when you build that plan, how it aligns with what you're doing in your business, because that's really the whole point to creating content that goes on your blog, on YouTube, and then you turn it into social media. It all needs to be tied into a purpose, all right? And it all needs to be aligned around what your message is, what you do, and how you help. So there you have the 5 mistakes and what to do about them. Number 1 is picking the wrong topics. Number 2 is forgetting to optimize for keywords. Number 3 is not sharing storytelling, because that's a great way to create demand. And number 4 is not writing about or creating content about what you know energetically. It'll change everything when you start doing that. And number 5 is not having a plan in place. So if you're ready to stop making those mistakes and start creating content that is profitable, I've got help for you. I have the Profitable Content Creators Roadmap, which will help you figure out what kind of content that you need to be creating that will build your audience, get you more leads, and turn them into paying customers through your content, the right content at the right time. I've got the link for you right down below in the notes, okay? So let's dive into today's question. So the first question is, how do I create a simple content plan that I can use before a launch, okay? So one of the biggest things that people forget to do is to create content specifically that they're going to use prior to a launch. And the cool thing is that you can use this content over and over again, okay? I see big people doing this, and they call this runway content, okay? So what you want to do before you have a launch is have 4 to 6 weeks of content all created and teed up to go out, and it can be old content too that you're repurposing, does not matter, but it all needs to be related to whatever you're going to be selling in your launch. So you want to be talking about what it is that you teach, how it helps, how it solves the problems, case studies, storytelling, all of that stuff that you are going to be sharing inside of your launch so that it starts highlighting people's, getting them interested, thinking about the problem, thinking that you have the answers, that you are the person. So you're creating desire for your launch and for your program or whatever it is that you're selling prior to actually doing the launch itself and opening the cart. So that's pretty much it what you do. You just need to sit down, go through your course, pull out topics that you cover and start talking about them in your content. What you want to stay away from, though, is giving them the how-tos. You want to educate people on the problems and the what-to-dos, and use storytelling, the seeding, all of that. That is going to create desire in advance of your launch and highlight that they've got a problem and that you are the person that they want to work with. That will make them more likely to sign up for your launch and show up and follow all the way through and become a customer when you do it that way, okay? So again, if you want to get started creating profitable content that will help you get more leads, build your audience, and turn them into customers, then grab the Profitable Content Creators Roadmap. I've got the link right below in the notes for you, okay? So let's go to question number 2. How do I come up with stories that create demand inside of my content? Which is a great topic, right? Because it's so helpful when you can incorporate storytelling. And as I said earlier, if you do one thing to change your content, I would say add storytelling in there, right? So you want to create stories around students, customers, your own experience. You need to get specific and tell the story of where you were before, what happened, what caused you to decide that you've got a problem, what solution and then what happened once you started using the solution, okay? So that's the kind of story, if you go from bad to, and you may have like oh gosh, I had this and then I went back up again, but you definitely want to have the rags to riches story, okay? Of how something worked. Those are the kinds of stories that you want to compile. And what I usually tell people to do is go look at your product or your launch or your course or whatever. Make a list of those success stories, okay? Make a list of those, write them down, and if they're students, you definitely want to get them on video because it's way more powerful that way. You can then get a transcript and turn it into all kinds of social media content, right? Or you can get on there and tell your own story of what happened, and that's even more powerful than writing it down because it's right there in video and people love that. So you definitely want to make a list of all those examples, stories, things like that. Stories are way more important than testimonials these days. So you can turn them into quotes and things like that because that's more powerful than saying, oh gosh, Kristen's an amazing teacher. You want to say, we did this, we did that, and this happened. And you can do that in just a couple of sentences. Trust me, I'm writing a sales page right now for a client. I went through some case studies and I was able to pull out three sentences that really kind of, in a short nutshell, explained where the transformation, what they did with his help, what the transformation was, and the outcome. Okay, so that's how you can kind of take a story and turn it into a shorter testimonial. But those stories are powerful, and you can use them not just in your content. You'll use them in your launches, you'll use them on your sales pages, you'll use them on your landing pages, you'll use them in your emails, practically everywhere. Okay, so you definitely want to build a bank of stories and have them all written down in a central place that you can come back and use them over and over again. I teach this inside when I teach my students the Irresistible Offer System. We create a story bank of things that we come back and we use over and over again and plug them into different areas of their content so they can use it when they're creating a course or a sales page or anywhere else. Okay, so that's it for today. And again, if you want to get started creating profitable content that helps you build your audience, gets you leads, and turns them into paying customers, I've got the Profitable Content Creators Roadmap right below in the show notes.
You've been listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, where content creators go to learn how to take their content creation to the next level. If you love the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. Until next time.